Hey, this is John Fernay, the co-host of the Maryland Crabs, and I am here today with a Maryland crab cake for your listening pleasure. What's a crab cake? It's not quite a full episode, it's just a little snippet. Stay tuned and check it out. And make sure you check us out on themarylandcrabs.com. You can follow us on Twitter at MD Crabs Podcast or find us on Facebook at the Maryland Crabs Podcast. And don't forget, subscribe, rate us, iTunes. Go there now. We are here in Maryland Hall in one of the cool little new back rooms in the new production wing, and we are joined by T. Adams. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful.
Many people in town may know you. I have just meeting you today, and your reputation certainly precedes you. And when Maryland Hall, we were talking about some of the things that you were doing for the community here, I said, well, this is something we need to talk about. And I thank you very much for your time, but there are two great events that are coming up probably a lot sooner than you want to imagine at Maryland Hall that you are intimately involved with. And one is on November 21st, which is an open mic night here. That's going to be hosted by Tao Soprano from Dru Hill.
Yes.
And the second event, and this is your labor of love or brief moment of insanity or something, or a combination of the two. But on January 15th, which is Martin Luther King's birthday, you're going to be presenting an original musical, and it is called The Other Side of King, a musical.
Yes.
Wow, there's a woman that's got a plateful for sure.
I live for the platefuls.
I guess when your plate is full, so is your belly. So I guess that's a good thing. Well, let's talk a little bit about the open mic night coming up in November. What is that all about, and where did that come about from?
We were, Maryland Hall and myself, as well as Kevin Smith, has reached out, and they want to make sure that we're able to use the Bowen room, and we shared the idea of having an open mic night. The way the open mic night works, we have Tao, the soprano. He's a local Annapolitan, and
I want to interrupt you. We've got a really strong rap, hip-hop kind of scene going here in Annapolis, which is somewhat underground. I mean, you've got young Dylan that's just, I think he took off for the moon.
And he's actually a cousin of mine. I found out the other day. He's a cousin of mine.
You look at that, you just hear about all of this talent that's coming out of Annapolis. And it's amazing. It is
some amazing talent within Annapolis that we may not everyone knows about. And some of us, they know about them, but they are so gifted. And so many times they're underrepresented. People don't know of them because there are not enough events to bring all of them to the forefront. So my goal is to have events to showcase the talent that we have. And both of the events, with the open mic and with the other side of Martin the musical, you will see some of those talents. And without jumping too far ahead, one of the lady that's playing the part of Coretta Scott King, Lolita Chambers Lampkin, her mother, Dr. Chambers, Dr. Dolores Chambers, she was instrumental in making sure that we have, in the educational forefront. And Lolita starred in plays at Annapolis High School.
Fantastic.
Yes, so it's a lot of giftings here. Fantastic.
Well, what can we expect on the 21st for the open mic night? You said it's down in the Bowen Theater, which is in the lower level of Maryland Hall. For those that haven't been there lately, you need to go there. It's a wonderful room. It can be divided up and used any number of different ways. It can sort of like a little black box theater, I think is what they call it. There's been movie screenings. There's been musical performances. We've hosted a panel discussion for the Wendy Winters PR Bazaar. I know there's been a number of things that have been there. It's a perfect place for an open mic night.
Yes. With the open mic, Tao is the host, and he will also be performing. But we wanted to be able to showcase some talent. So we have some that have signed up for this event, whether it's singing or whatever it may be. Once we complete that, then people have the ability to sign up and say, hey, I want to perform. And this is where you get your local Annapolitans to see the gifts that they have. And they sign up, they come up on stage, they perform. And I like it that it's in the Bowen room because it's a more intimate setting. It only accommodates about 180 people, so they want to get in and get their tickets because the tickets will go fast.
How much are tickets?
Tickets are $15.
Okay, so it's not an expensive ticket by any means.
Not at all.
Now, is this primarily going to be a rap hip hop type of a open mic, or don't know, or
you never know what you may have? More, it could be neo soul, it could be hip hop, it could be it's a combination of everything, whatever they choose to do.
Any age restrictions or anything like that?
I don't believe so. I believe that it's open to all ages.
You going to be singing?
No. I will be providing the atmosphere. I will be providing lighting down there because there are times when they'll have the curtains, like you said, the black box, or we can open the curtains and we can put lighting down there and it gives some ambiance. I will be providing the ambiance.
All right, real talk. Let's talk about, you've got a lighting company.
Yes.
And you provide, and you were showing me before we started recording some just wonderful pictures on your phone, but you provide event lighting.
Yes.
And it's not so much production lighting, correct?
No.
I mean, so you're not doing spotlights and all of that,
No.
but the ambiance lighting that you see, if you go to a beautiful wedding or something like that and you just see the walls awashed in color or whatnot, that's you, right?
Yes, we paint the walls with lights. That's and we've done all types of events from a funeral to a repast, wedding, gospel go-go's, dances for children. We do all types of lighting.
What's the name of the company?
Light It Up with AAA.
What's AAA?
It's 3 generations of
Adams?
Of the Adams. And it started with my husband, myself, and my son. My son has passed on. So now it's still the 3 generations because my son's daughter works with me to provide the lighting.
Fantastic. A good legacy to leave behind there. But some really good work there. So if anybody has any need for lighting, give T a call and find out. Now, let's talk a little bit about this musical that came to you in a dream.
In a dream.
Which is sort of appropriate considering it is a Martin Luther King musical. And how did this come about? I mean, obviously it came to you in a dream, and then did you come to Maryland Hall and say, hey, I want to do this? Or
No, Maryland Hall reached out and said, so what are we doing? Because I've partnered with them and done other events, and they came to me and said, we need you to come up with an event for Martin Luther King. Last year they had an open mic night. And they just wanted to do something a little bit different and says, so can you come up with an idea? And about 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, and I always keep pen and paper ready because sometimes I have these dreams. And it was so vivid that I started writing down every little detail as I remembered in the dream. And I woke my husband up that morning and I said, babe, I had a dream. This is what the dream was about. And he's looking at me like, okay, and every
that's man speak for you. You're nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I shared it with him, it's like, okay, babe. And so, but I don't write plays. I do lights, and I tell people that I always put that disclaimer. I do lights. They say you do more than lights because I love doing events as well. So in the dream, we all know of Martin Luther King, the activist. Everybody knows so many stories about Martin Luther King, but in the dream, what I saw was the personal side of him, the family man, and the struggles that they had as a family and what they went through, because you know the other side. So I said, so what I would like to do is have tell the other side of the story. But because I love showcasing local artists as well as any up-and-coming rising artists, I said, I want to do the musical side so that we can incorporate the choir. We can incorporate soloists. There's so many gifts as far as people that acting. And we want to be able to showcase all of that. So with that being said, that's how we came about. And then I was talking to Kevin. Kevin says, I write plays. It's like, okay, so what God did was connected all of the dots that we needed. We did things very non-traditional. We had someone help me pick out songs that we wanted for the play. And then the vision for the play. And it's like, okay, Kevin, now you have to write the play. And he said, okay. So that's where we are now. The play is just about finished.
So the songs are selected. I mean, it's not an originally scored musical. I mean, it's not.
No, not originally
but they're
scored.
just songs that will highlight the different aspects that are going on throughout this. You say Kevin is writing the play, and that's your partner in this thing, and that is Kevin Smith.
Yes.
And unfortunately, he couldn't be here this morning, but we're going to get with him on the phone in a little bit and get his thought about this. He's going to come back and say, oh, yeah, T had this nutty dream. Now look where I am. She should have listened to her husband in the morning and said, no, don't do this. But we're doing it. We're doing it on January 15th. So he's writing this play on, and I guess this is the Martin Luther King that nobody knows about. I say nobody, but very few people know about. This is the guy that comes down into the kitchen in his bare feet and pajamas and eats the bowl of Cheerios. That, you know, as opposed to the gentleman in the tie out there, you know, speaking to the masses.
Now, did you know that Coretta Scott King, she loved to sing, and she was gifted with singing?
I did know that she was a singer. I didn't know to what extent.
So there's so many things that, and this is based on true story. So there's so many things that we had, so much research we had to do before he could even get to the point of writing the play. You just can't write a play without researching the era, without researching the information to make sure you're bringing it to the people correct.
Sure. And is this going to be up in the main theater, or is this also going to be in the...
Oh, no, absolutely. It's going to be upstairs on the stage. The overflow, because the event will be on January the 15th, and it's going to be free to the public. So with that being said, we may have to use the main theater, the upper area, as well as the overflow would be down in the Bowen room, where they'll set up a big screen and they'll be able to see it.
They've done that. Well. They've done that in the past, where they put they project what's happening on the main screen, literally above their heads. You're casting for this. I mean, this is two people writing and coming up with the play, and then obviously, how big is your cast? I mean,
well, the choir is going to be 50 voices strong. That's easy.
So you say.
Yes.
So, and do you know at this point, is the choir going to be permanently on stage throughout this whole?
No, it
thing,
won't always be on the stage, because they'll be coming in down the aisles.
Okay.
Yes. Singing, and then they'll move to the stage. There's probably 3 scene changes in the play. One will be a barber shop, one will be a church, and one will be the home of Martin Luther King.
Right.
Those are the areas we're covering.
What's it take to put it all together? I've spoken with several of the theater companies in town, and they buy the rights to a play, and it's all scripted out. Insert the song here, build the scene with the church there. You've come up with all this from scratch.
Yes. It requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of research. It requires patience again, because Kevin has, the minute I gave him the vision. Sometimes you can give people the vision and they take it and transform it to make it what they want to see. With Kevin, I did not have that at all. He listened, he heard exactly what I saw, and he was able to duplicate it into a script to the letter. And I'm sitting there listening to the music. Last week we had an opportunity where he walked us through with the music so that we could get a feel of what the play is like and how the play is going. And every time I sit there and listen to it, I have tears in my eyes. Wow. Because it's just so powerful and it's so real. It's entertaining as well, but it's amazing that he was able to get and not change my vision.
Now, where do you stand as far as the production on this? I mean, obviously, you've got some time before you have to build the sets and everything else, but and you're probably still designing, figuring out exactly what they are.
Because Kevin had an emergency and it took him down for a minute, it may have delayed it probably about a week, which isn't bad at all as far as finishing the actual play. But the people that are performing, because they are kind of like semi-professionals and because they're gifted to do what they do, you can tell them this is the song you're going to be singing. And so we don't have to worry about that. We can have 3 choir rehearsals and knock it out of the park with all of the songs that they're going to be performing. So they're used to it. When we have funerals in Annapolis and they need a choir, that the churches may not necessarily have choirs, they say, okay, we need singers for so-and-so's funeral. We need you to show up at this time, and we're going to go over the song once, even if you've never heard it before, and they're able to perform.
Well, that's the benefit of singing in a group of people. When you mess up, a lot of people don't necessarily notice that. I learned that a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
But as far as casting the play, I mean, do you have all of your actors lined up? Or you?
Right now, we have Lolita
as Coretta.
Lampkins as Coretta. And Lolita actually sang when we did Sounds of the Season here at Maryland Hall, and she wore it out. We're still casting for Dr. King. We have several people that we want, but we just haven't figured out which one it will be. So that's one that we're still in the casting process. So we have people that have volunteered to be, and all of our people, the good thing about it, they love to volunteer. We have the makeup artist, we have the hairstylist, because Lolita Chambers has long locks.
Okay.
But in the role of Coretta, she doesn't have long locks. So I told one young lady, I said, okay, we have to get her hair to look like Coretta. And it's like, okay, no problem. So we've had people, makeup artists, hairstylists, wardrobe stylists, all of these people have volunteered to step up to the plate because they know that when I do things and when Kevin does things, and now we're working together as a team, that it's going to be, we only give our best. So they know the level of work that we do. They're going to make sure that happens.
And it's just one show, right?
Yes, one show only.
You're not going to take it on the road?
No. No, I don't have the time, and neither does Kevin. Kevin works with some musical artists, and he definitely, a group called Rain, and he does not have the time to take it on the road. Well,
I certainly hope that somebody gets a real good audio video or a video of it to throw that up on YouTube there, because it sounds like it's really a fascinating thing. So the actual cast itself doesn't seem too large. I mean, it's really just Dr. King and his family.
Dr. King and his family, yes. And my granddaughter...
sounds like a brag coming on here.
Yes,
Come on, bring it on.
She's going to be playing the role of Yoki, Yolanda King, the oldest of Dr. King's children. So she's going to be playing that role as well.
Did you come up with the concept? Is that how that was? And then Kevin turned around and said, hey, let's do it. I mean, were you involved in, okay, well, we want to go with a church scene and we want to go with a house scene and we want to go with a...
Like I said, I came up with the vision as to this is what I saw. And now that I think about it, yes, I did see the church scene, the house scene. I didn't see the barbershop. He added the barbershop and the funeral.
Okay.
So we kind of came up with it together. I think one of the most powerful parts in the play will be the funeral scene as well as some of the beginning. And there will be dancers as well. So we will have a community dance group that will be dancing as well as singing.
This sounds really cool.
Yes.
Well, T. Adams, I thank you very much for coming in. What I want to do is I want to hop on the phone with Kevin, and this just sounds like such a fantastic opportunity for the city, and not just the city, actually, the whole area. Maryland Hall is a great venue, and I mean, you've done some wonderful work, and I appreciate your efforts that you've done to do this. I'm looking forward to the open mic night on the 21st.
Yes.
Keep dreaming.
Yes.
Keep writing those notes down in the middle of the night, and If your husband gives you any flack, you tell him no. This was a good idea the last time. T. Adams, thank you very much. We're going to hop on the phone with Kevin Smith, and we'll finish this up. Well, hey, we just got done with T. Adams, and right now joining us on the phone is Kevin Smith, who is, I guess, I'm going to say the playwright of the Martin Luther King production, which is coming on January 15th at Maryland Hall, and it's called The Other Side of King. It is a musical, but welcome, Kevin Smith. I'm sorry you couldn't make us at Maryland Hall, but I'm glad to get you on the phone.
Absolutely, and I'm glad to be with you.
Well, you are working with T. Adams on two programs for now at Maryland Hall. One is coming up very quickly on November 21st, and it is an open mic night, and that's going to be down in the lower theater of Maryland Hall, and that's going to feature Tao Soprano, who is formerly from Dru Hill, right?
Yes, sir. And we're really excited about that one because, of course, it's my first time officially working with Maryland Hall, and I'm pretty much the point of contact with all the talent that'll be reaching out for the open mic night session. But I'm so excited because we'll have Tao Soprano, who is actually an Annapolis native, and this is his first performance back in Annapolis after joining Dru Hill and becoming successful in the music industry.
Oh, fantastic! I did not realize that he was from Annapolis.
Yep.
We've got
Yep, he's an Annapolis native.
If you're coordinating the talent on this open mic night, how many acts how do you envision this whole thing playing out? And how many people have signed up, and how's it going to work?
So it's still early on. We don't have a lot of sign-ups, but we've got a lot of inquiries, people reaching out and trying to sign up. And that's typical for open mic night because open mics are pretty spontaneous. We do have some planned performances. So what's happening is that particular night we will have a house band. We will have some Southern cuisine by Taylor. She'll be catering some food for sale, and we will have a cash bar. But it's kind of like a very intimate night, and great for the soul. It's a tribute to the '90s. We will have some tributes to some of the '90s R&B, such as Faith Evans and Erykah Badu, and '90s R&B groups, and Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston was a really big icon in the R&B era, and for the '90s. And we will have a tribute. We have someone coming on, a few artists, local artists that some people may know, such as Tiffany Camille and Devon Danielle, Brianna Green, and David Stansbury. Just many others that will be coming together, including Tao Soprano, who will be just making a great night with these performances and inviting others, encouraging others to come up and conquer the stage and do a tribute of their own and their own style to the '90s R&B.
That's fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. And you said it's going to be an intimate night, which is actually, there's no way it could be anything but down in that theater. And for those that, again, haven't been down in the basement, if you will, of Maryland Hall, it's the Bowen Theater, and it's sort of considered like a black box type of a theater. It can be reconfigured any number of ways, but it only holds about 150, 160 people. So it's not a big, huge auditorium type of a thing. And that's just going to be a fantastic night.
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited. I can't wait for all the rehearsals to start. We're going to pretty much kind of strategically plan this night where people are going to be entertained as well as have the opportunity to share the stage with Tao.
That'd be awesome. Well, I'll tell you, let's slide on to your other, you're not busy enough with that, but you've got a full-blown musical coming up on January 15th, which is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. It's called The Other Side of King, which is a musical. And from what T told us, she woke up and had a dream, which is kind of appropriate for Martin Luther King, of doing a musical. And you said, hey, I can do that. Is that sort of how that went down?
Actually, yeah. So we were at a meeting and we were talking about some upcoming potential events, and she shared that she had a vision for having a musical on his birthday. She said, I really want to do this. And I said, well, I call her Mama T. I said, well, Mama T, this is the big production, and I can support you however way you need me to support you. And she says, well, can you write the play? And I said, well, yeah, we will need to write it. So of course, I've co-written plays plays with the famous Richard Johnson IV from First Christian Community Church of Annapolis. And we've done a lot of Easter production plays. I've also done my own production with First Christian, which was a Christmas play, which was a modern story of Mary and Joseph that was told, and the play was called Called, the thing Called.
Okay.
And this was in 2017. I'm sorry, 16. So she came to me and she said, I would love for you to oversee the direction and the writing of this play. And we've done a lot of research, and I'm telling you, writing this play has been so rewarding and inspiring. I know I've learned all of the things that we learn in the history books and some of the factual events that Martin Luther King experienced, but getting to know the family and Coretta through her book, it allowed you to kind of see Martin on the other side of him. You know, we see him as, you know, in front of the cameras. We see him when he's on stage and he's behind the mic and we're in front of the podium. But what's happening on the other side of him? Who's standing behind him? Who is his family? Who is his close relative and his close friend? And that's what this musical kind of pretty much emphasizes, that, you know, his close friends, his family, they all had experiences too. So we've come up with this fictional, however, based off of true event musical that just kind of outlines some of the great events that we know about and some of the sad events that we know about, and putting it all together in this very thematic, emotional journey, The Other Side of King, the musical.
Well, that was actually one of my questions, was how did you research all of this? Because, I mean, this is not the public Martin Luther King that we know. I mean, this is not the enigmatic speaker that's standing up on the stage, as you said, and just so eloquently speaking. I mean, this is a guy that, you know, walks down the steps in the morning and he's got a kid and a wife going, you know, you ain't all that big of a deal. It's a family thing. And so how did you research all of this?
A lot of it was through documentary. Some of it was through interviews, not with the king himself, but with his family. Okay. Also with a book called that Coretta came out with, My Life. And a lot of it, she does speak about her experiences as his wife. A lot of the content that was in the book that I read, the documentaries and the interviews that were happening around those time frames, they all pretty much verified it. So a lot of cross-references, and keeping it simple, too. We can't necessarily go into a lot of great detail, but we do know that. For example, we have one particular scene, and it's at the barbershop, and it's called Clyde. And the barbershop is fictional, but we do know that Martin had to go to the barbershop to get a haircut. So it's just one of those things where, can we just take a moment and reflect back to, if we were to think, okay, Martin on a Saturday morning went to the barbershop, and it was the weekend before he decided to go to Selma, him and Coretta, to go in March for Selma. How do you think he was feeling? So that's what I mean by just some of the fictional. I was able to write out, not necessarily identifying his feeling, but I'm sure that the people around him were able to lift him up. So in a barbershop, we know that for a fact, that you're around a bunch of guys, you're gossiping, but you're also being lifted up.
Oh.
So where it allows you to face the world as it is. And that's where a lot of my creativity is kind of being applied into this musical. It's just taking some of the facts and just taking what we know of and how we can apply it to what we think may have happened during that particular time. You know, there's another part of this scene in the musical that we're going to be displaying where we know the facts of how Coretta found out that Martin passed. We have these facts, and we verified that in the book. But it's never been displayed how she found out. So it's that moment where we say, okay, let's not necessarily keep it as fact by fact, but let's use the moment and lift the moment up, because we know for a fact that just the next day, Coretta got on the plane and she went to go to Memphis, and she went to head the march. The day after her husband was assassinated, she's leading a march. So it just tells you how, even though that she had lost her husband, she had enough guts and courage to leave her for her kids and go and finish what her husband had started the day after.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So how do you, in a play, in a musical, how do you, and use your creativity, how do you display that? You get what I'm saying? So we're kind of focusing on those things and just trying to be able to express how not just King, but the other side of him, the other side of King, and we want to make sure that folks can feel, hope and understand that there was a purpose on his life and a calling and purpose on his family and his friends, and how we are connected to certain people who have great purposes and callings on them, and how much of an impact, even though we're not necessarily the person called, by us being connected, how we have impact on that situation as well.
Certainly. Well, question for you though, when I was talking to Mama T, as you call her, it seemed like this was a fairly recent vision or dream that she had. How long have you been working on this?
I want to say about 2 months.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I thought you were going to tell me like a year and a half. I mean, this is honestly all coming together. And
Yes. 2 months ago is when this dream came. And like I said, this is why we're keeping it pretty simple. It's not detail for detail, but it's allowing you to experience a journey. And the setting of this musical will be from 1965 to the time he died, which was 1968.
Right.
So 3 years of this experience.
As writing a musical, does that consider you a playwright? Is that what that is, or is there another word for somebody that writes musicals? I don't.
It would be a playwriting because there's dramatic pieces in between the musicals. So the musical, the only music that would be original in the musical would be done by some of the local artists that we have that are participating in the musical, and 2 of the selections will be done by their original songs. However, typically, sometimes most musicals, the play is written and the music is written all together. But this would be set up where there would be a scene, some music done in the scene, but the music would be familiar music.
Okay, so
familiar songs.
So you guys are selecting a song that seems appropriate for this particular scene that we may already know. I mean, it could be a gospel song, or it could be, any number of different things. It's very cool. Very cool. Oh, and only a couple months. Now, are you completely done with this yet?
Just about. Right now, it's just going through some grammatical errors, and we're still in the selection phase of some of the casting, but we're just about. We're hoping to start some rehearsals as of the next 2 weeks.
And once again, this is on January 15th, and the neat thing about this is because, and this is a story that does need to be told, this is a free program at Maryland Hall. I imagine they're going to require tickets, even though they are free, just so they know exactly what it is. And you are going to have the ability to simulcast it down into the lower Bowen Theater for if there's any overflow that needs to see this. But this is a story that really needs to be told. I mean, obviously we've learned about Martin Luther King in history and in school and whatnot, but to hear another side of him, and again, I always think that's very fascinating when you look at anybody of any kind of fame or renown. What is this guy like? What's he like as a coach on the side of his kids' little league team, as opposed to this guy standing up, preaching or whatever it may be. So I think this is just a really neat idea that you guys have come up with. How big is the total cast? I mean, obviously you've got Dr. King and his wife and his children, and then I know T had said there was a choir that was involved there. But I mean, how many people are involved that are going to be on stage? Do you have a number?
Actually, I don't yet. We're looking at some scenes will be very involved because there'll be some church scenes, so we'll have a lot of extras. As far as cast and speaking, we're looking at around I would say 15 people, and as far as the choir, we're looking at about 50 voice choir. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Damn, this is going to be an impressive, sounding, experiencing thing. I just, a 50 voice choir up on stage at Maryland Hall talking about the other side of Dr. King on his birthday is got to be, it's just sort of giving me chills right now.
Yeah, it's really great. And the one, well, not just one, but I've just been, it's been a pleasure to really understand and learn the other side of him, and also just kind of get to know his family and his family history and kind of where he comes from. The one thing that stood out to me while writing this was that his parents, both of his parents, and they were there. They buried their son.
Yeah. And
they not only buried their son, but his mother was killed a few years later in church.
That's right. I do remember that.
Yeah, his mother was killed a few years later, and that won't necessarily be covered in the play, but it really just kind of makes you just think, as far as the family is concerned, how much they all went through just as a culture and a people, but they were still so strong and still had so much courage to make sure that there was change, because if these people didn't exist, where would our world be?
Yeah, I hate to think about that.
So much courage. It's just really fascinating.
I am looking forward to seeing this, and I'll let you go because I know you're under crunch time. You've got rehearsals starting in a week and a half. Again, for those that are listening, it's January 15th. I'm not sure of the exact time. I will make sure you find that out. You can follow us on Eye on Annapolis and find out all the information. We'll be making sure that we have do as much as we can to make sure everybody knows about this. But it is going to be a free performance at Maryland Hall for the Creative Arts on January 15th. Dr. King's birthday, and it's going to be called The Other Side of King, and it will be a musical written by Kevin Smith, who was on the phone with us, and T. Adams, who we spoke with a little bit earlier. And before you go, Kevin, I got a question for you. On January 16th, okay, you've had the play, you've had the standing ovations, they threw the roses up at y'all, and you went out and you celebrated and you did the high fives and everything else like that. Okay, you go home, you probably get a really, really good night's sleep, one that you haven't had in a while. Okay, and on January 16th, your phone rings and you look down, and on the caller ID it says T. Adams or Mama T. Do you answer it or not?
Of course. So I know for a fact that the phone call probably wouldn't be a new vision. I would probably guarantee that the phone call would be, is when will we start for next year?
Kevin Smith, thank you very much for giving us a call this afternoon. I look forward to meeting you. I definitely will say hello to you on November 21st when we have our open mic night at Maryland Hall down in the Bowen Theater. And
awesome.
I am totally, totally looking forward to this Other Side of King on January 15th, also at Maryland Hall, because I think this is going to be one of the more powerful performances you're ever going to be able to see in that venue.
Awesome. I'm so excited.
This has been the Maryland Crabs podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them at all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.